Hi, welcome to our next DIY video. We're going to show you how to fix this. Yep, it's that old plaster formula. So we're going to use a method called dot and dab, which is probably the easiest one for DIYers to do.
Coming up later in the video, using renderer's mesh to stop cracks reappearing, straightening a bowed wall and refitting the architrave after plastering.
So there are times when you shouldn't use dot and dab. If the wall is damp.
A wall can be damp for many reasons, such as single brick or solid brick construction, no or damaged damp-proof course, leaking gutters, or the damp-proof course has been bridged, or is simply too close to the outside ground level. The problem needs to be solved first, or another method used.
This wall, however, is bone dry. There's no problem with damp at all, so you can easily dot and dab onto this. The one big advantage is it's easier to do, and also this house has these original wooden battens that are put into the brickwork, and the frame is nailed into them. If you try and plaster onto those with modern day materials, it'd most likely blister and blow again, but if you dot and dab, you cover it, and that wood can move underneath the board and not cause any problems to the plaster on the top. If you do have an older house that hasn't got damp-proof cores, or the walls are damp, there are other methods you can use, and you can have a damp-proof course put in with injections, but that's a whole different video. One of the main reasons why dot and dab may fail is if the bricks are very absorbent, especially really old clay bricks. The best way to get over that, personally, I feel, is to spray water onto the bricks. Let the water absorb in, but you cut down the amount of absorbency of the bricks with the dot and dab. I don't really agree with painting something on like PVA and then going on top of that with the dot and dab, because you've got a layer in between the adhesive and the bricks, which could fail. So in most cases, you wouldn't have to spray the bricks with water. It's only if they're really absorbent, which you'll be able to tell when you spray a little bit of water on. If the water disappears straight away, they are very absorbent. But if the water sort of takes a while to disappear or even sits there, then you don't really need to spray them. We're going to start off by taking a series of measurements. The first one is to cut the top. You put a spacer on the floor because you don't really want plasterboard to touch the floor. It's not so important with floorboards. If you've got a concrete floor, the plasterboard can suck any moisture or cold out of the concrete floor, so you need at least a 12mm gap.
We used a sharp knife and a plasterboard straight edge to cut the board straight.
We're now going to take a series of measurements measuring up all the points that are either the furthest away or the closest in, so we can then draw the shape. We can say 123 centimetres and level that course there. It's 46 centimetres wide, and we'll keep doing that all the way down.
We used a plasterboard jab saw to cut the awkward shape out. After we finished cutting the board out, we tried it for size. We mixed board adhesive up to a thick and creamy consistency. If it's too wet, it can go everywhere. Next we applied dabs all over the wall, and especially around the edge and around the socket to give extra strength. The board is tapped into place, trying to make it as flush as possible with existing plaster. A large panel would need tapping with a straight edge to make sure it's flat and vertical, checking with spirit level as you go. It's useful to use any excess adhesive around the board edge to tie everything together.
So we've dotted and dabbed this piece of plasterboard onto the wall, and we've also used some bonding just to smooth out the edge. We're now going to PVA the bonding, but we're also going to put SBR onto this wall. You could PVA the whole thing, but because this bonding is quite new, you couldn't SBR it. If you PVA it, the moisture can still come out from the bonding, where the SBR is a waterproofer. So as you mentioned, this is where the doorway used to be. We've bonded this out after putting plasterboard in. It's also worth putting a straight edge along the wall, and what we've worked out is there's quite a gap here. So we're going to bond this out so this whole wall is dead flat. The reason for that is the bathroom's right behind where the camera is now. And when you walk out, if there's a unit here, you'll be able to see straight along the unit, and it will really emphasise a wiggly wall. So if we build the bonding up and then keep checking it with the flat edge, we can see when we've got a nice flat wall. The other great thing with bonding is if it dries, it's not quite right, you can scrape it back. It's great practice. Obviously that's where your skirting board's going to sit, so we want that to be dead flat. There's a very slight gap here, so we'll put a little bit more in there. Okay, so we put the bonding on. Now this might look like a lot of bonding, but there was a door here. That tends to throw the wall off, that we've now created one complete wall. You can go onto this when it starts to go this darker colour, but actually it's getting pretty late now. It's like 9 o'clock at night, so we're going to plaster this tomorrow. Because we're going to go on this tomorrow, we will give it a coat of PVA. If you're going to go on later tomorrow, you probably give it 2. But once it's dried out fully, nothing is worse than bonding for sucking the water out of the top coat. So then I would SBR it, but only if it's fully dried. So a quick coat of PVA in the morning and then we'll plaster this. Okay, so it's the morning after and it's daylight again. We're giving this 2 coats of PVA, but we did have a little problem, and this happens with plastering. This bit here, we noticed it sort of bubbled, and then when we touched it with this scraper, this bit fell off. Fortunately, it's really solid from here on. It's hard to know sometimes why it's happened. We're going to put a bit of bonding into this, and then we'll get plastering. So the electrics we're going to turn off, because electrics and plastering do not mix. The electrics on the bottom are turned off anyhow, in fact they're not even connected yet. And the door frame, we've taken the architraving off because it makes a much neater job, but we will have to put a little fillet in here, which will bring the architraving forward in line with the new plasterwork.
Whether you're going to just plaster the repaired area or plaster the whole wall, the principle is the same. If you're going to patch the plaster in, it's important to feather the first coat and run the second coat slightly past the first coat, feathering that one too. We also use renderer's mesh above the door to hide a few cracks.
So we put the renderer's mesh on and we've held it in place with scrim tape. Sometimes we use staples to hold it into place. It's really easy. You simply apply the first coat straight over the top of the renderer's mesh, and then your second coat goes on as normal, but it will hide most of the cracks. So we put the first coat on, we troweled the first coat on, then went over with a speed skim, and then we second troweled it. And now we're just waiting for it to take up a little bit. Where we've got this all wet spot, so it's very shiny and a little bit bubbly, we just wait for that to sort of take up a bit, and then that stops those bubbles from coming through into the second coat. Whether you're doing a small patch or a whole wall, the principle is exactly the same.
Mixing the plaster for the second coat. Add plaster to water in a bucket and mix.
Okay, so we've put the second coat on and we've gone over the speed skim, and we've also given it another trowel. What we'll try and do is trowel it as many times as we can with a standard of hard trowel, and then we'll give it a final trowel with a softer nailer one. You don't want to go on too early because otherwise you just put leopard prints in. So it's been a week since we plastered this and it's actually dried out really well. There's no dark patches, so we can paint this now. We're going to put the fillets around and then put the architrave on, which I'll show you next. But we do have a video at the end of this video that shows you how to paint this and turn this from this to this. So to finish off the door frames, we've fitted a 5mm fillet. You might need 8mm if you've had to put a lot of bonding in. And we simply tapped that around the edge and then refitted the architraving. In this case, we used the original stuff. Just be careful if it's 1960s or before, because it could have lead paint. So we've even started to pick a paint colour for the hallway, which is a bit premature. If you'd like to see some more videos, then hit that subscribe button, it really helps.
What you do to me is in confliction, a straight contradiction with my mind. Guilty pleasure has a bitter taste. In the end, my friend, are you sure you want to